Hello and welcome to your GBA Season 5 Awards. I am CantorCast Blue.
And I'm Baby Nick, aka Mighty Mammals One.
And we are here to share with you the awards that we have listed for Season 5 of the GBA. So if you guys aren't familiar with this type of video or what awards are listed, Mighty Mammal Swine is actually going to give a rundown of what they are and what the classification is for each of them right now.
Okay, so last season and in the second season of the D-League, we had 5 awards. We had MVP, Offensive Pokemon of the Year, Defensive Pokemon of the Year, 7th Pokemon of the Year, and Coach of the Year. But this year, we added another award, so this is also going to be Most Improved Coach from the previous season to now. And giving you a rundown of what each category is. Offensive Pokemon of the Year is the Pokemon that was the biggest threat offensively throughout the entire year and probably had one of the best performances ever in the GBA. Defensive Pokemon of the Year is obviously the counterpart to the Offensive Pokemon of the Year, but the defensive one, really, you have a hard time killing and you have to recognize it as a threat before you try and play him for your matches. 7th Pokemon of the Year is a Pokemon that came to half or less of the matches for the coach. However, it performed phenomenally, and it really made a huge impact despite the fact that it didn't come to very many games. Coach of the Year is obviously the coach that had the best regular season, the coach who did the best throughout the entire regular season, while the playoffs are kind of disregarded for that one. MVP goes to the Pokemon that was the most valuable to the team. So, not Offensive Pokemon of the Year, not Defensive Pokemon of the Year, someone that does both, someone that if you take it off of the team that it was on, the team would not be nowhere as good as it was at the end of the season. And then Most Improved Coach is pretty self-explanatory. So Most Improved Coach will go to the coach who didn't do so well last year, but did a lot better this year. And really improved and showed a lot.
So getting right on into it, the Offensive Pokemon of the Year, we had pegged for Mega Pinsir.
Mega Pinsir was coached by gym leader Gio and the San Francisco Giants, who finished with, for every 7 kills it had 1 death. So it went 21-3. This thing literally did not die, except for 3 games.
And you know what? It's not really surprising because I believe in Season 4, when Hank of the Aquajets owned it, it also put in an extreme amount of work too, and I don't think it was all that feared at first, if I recall correctly.
Well, it's been very, very good in the past. Govs used it very well in Season 2, which I think he won MVP with that season, and Mega Pinsir has always been one of those Pokemon in the format where if you don't prepare for it, you're going to get 6-0'd, and if you let it set up a Sword Stance, it's going to kill 3 Pokemon, and that's exactly what it did with Geo this year.
Up next, we have Defensive Pokemon of the Year, and for that, we chose Mega Aggron.
So yeah, Mega Aggron, coached by Dan and the St. Louis Rampardos, really did a good job for Dan in his final season. He used it very well defensively throughout the year, but it also came with offensive options. It finished the season 9-10, so you typically don't see defensive Pokemon have 10 kills, but it's what it did in combination with Sylveon and what it did to hold the whole team together as a whole, which really helped propel Dan to a championship win.
Absolutely true. I was skeptical at first because, based on my background in the game, I don't really see Mega Aggron that much. And I mean, it gets filter, and it's a huge physical beast, but, it doesn't have that many options. But Dan honestly did so much with this thing, and we saw Head Smash. That was really exciting. Week 1.
Head Smash.
Head Smash.
But his opponent doesn't. So, yeah, Mega Aggron is a Pokemon that we will probably never see do as well as it did this season. That's just how good Dan used it this year. We've seen him use Pokemon very well, like Mega Sableye. Many people didn't think it would be very good. Same with Mega Aggron. Many people didn't think it would be very good, but he used it fantastic. Fantastic is the only word you could really say about Mega Aggron this year.
Following up with that, in a similar vein, we have 7th Pokemon, and that went to Heracross, also coached by Dan.
Heracross didn't really have the most stellar record this year, having 2 kills and 5 deaths. However, when it came, it really, really put a hurt on the other team. Heracross didn't even rack up that many kills because it just pushed things down to a lower limit of health to where other Pokemon can just sweep up. This was the hardest award for the analysts to pick because there were so many great contenders, and a lot of them were on Dan's team. So Heracross stood out the most to us, and that's why I ended up winning 7th Pokemon of the year.
Yeah, 7th is always kind of difficult to pick because A, they're not really brought to that many games, and B, in the grand scheme of things, it's difficult to pick out, a Mon that was only brought to like 4 or 5 games, and then to decide how effective it actually was throughout the whole season to determine, who got where and how well they did. It's tough, but I feel like Heracross is a decent pick, and Heracross is one of those kind of underrated ones in my opinion too. So no complaint from me there. Up next, we have the most improved coach of the year, and that distinct honor goes to none other than Old Man Tup and the Pittsburgh Piratas.
So yeah, Tup didn't make the playoffs, didn't win the championship, didn't go from worst to first, but you did win more games, and you got the recognition that you deserved. You got most improved coach of the year, really did a great job, really stood out from the last season, and took it to a whole nother level. Proves that he could be a good coach even for the next season.
True. And you know what? My bold prediction of Tup breaking even, it almost happened.
I mean, it's close, but the fact that you had him getting 6 wins was pretty bold, especially how competitive this league is and how unproven he was. But now he's definitely proved he is a legitimate contender in this league, and you have to take him seriously. He is not light work.
Just think about the team he had for Season 4, right? And then look at the team that he drafted for Season 5. Like, there is a clear distinction of, okay, now I know what I'm doing, and I realized what went wrong last year, and now I've got, a little bit of a better vision, a little bit stronger plan to move forward with. And he executed it really well. He also drafted Arcanine, which I was a huge fan of.
Didn't draft Mamoswine, so logic doesn't really continue here.
Okay, fair enough. Moving on then, we have the Coach of the Year, and this is where I'm going to kind of put my 2 cents in. But we overall picked George and the San Francisco Arcaniners.
Yeah, George, when he started the season, has had background in the league. He was in the D-League for 2 seasons and proved that he is a fantastic coach. But he also had extremely good teams, and his GBA D-League Season 2 team was considered one of the best teams ever drafted. So he definitely had the help of his team there. At the beginning of this season, his team did not look the best, and I don't know how much he liked it, but he proved that with the Pokemon he had, he could make it work. There were weeks where some of his Pokemon didn't even cross base 100 speed outside of Mega Lopunny, which really carried him throughout the year. He was by far the best coach throughout the regular season. He was one of the most consistent coaches, and I think he had the longest winning streak this entire season, and really proved why he deserved to be Coach of the Year.
You make a very compelling argument, I will say that. And in fact, during Season 2 of the D-League, I actually picked him to win over you, which did not happen. And again, I apologize for that. But
the reason that didn't happen is because we never played you.
That's fair enough. So, my bit, I guess, going from a more creative standpoint, I feel like Gio really put in a lot of work this season. And, I mean, the creativity on the Giante side was just phenomenal. The Entei sets, how he worked with Ditto, like, I can't argue the record. 8-4 is phenomenally impressive, and Gio came up just a little bit short there. But I definitely think that Gio should get an honorable mention for this category, if nothing else, an honorable mention.
Gio did a great job this year. He blew a lot of people away. However, I just couldn't get past the fact that he didn't make the playoffs. He was in a good division, but it's something that he should have been able to walk away with, and he did not. So.
And I think a lot, well, maybe not a lot, but there were definitely some disappointed people that he didn't make the playoffs. And himself, I'm sure, was also very disappointed about that. But I was one of those people who was just like, oh, okay, Giantes, that, But I'm a believer now. Like,
I've always been.
You've always been on the Gio bandwagon, 100%.
The Pick'em crew, I picked him every single week. So.
And it worked out very well for you.
As I ended up winning, yeah. I prefer Meat Lover's Pizza, by the way.
Oh, yeah. That. Right. So, moving on to the final category, we have the MVP. And speaking of George, this honor goes to none other than Mega Lopunny.
Yeah, Mega Lopunny went 22-5 this year. I believe it had the most kills in the entire league. It had more deaths than Mega Pinsir. But if you took Mega Lopunny off of George's team, I don't even know if he's a playoff team. that just proves the value Mega Lopunny had. It really shined a light on how well Mega Lopunny could do in the format. I think one of our other analysts, Monotuli, is 18-0 with it right now in his league. This Pokemon deserves to be the MVP in basically every league it's in, or else it's not being used properly. That's how good Mega Lopunny is. That's how well George used it this year, and that's why it deserved to be MVP.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, it's a normal fighting type, crazy attack, crazy speed. You can have weird sets like Fake Out and Last Resort. It gets scrappy, so it literally hits everything. This thing is ridiculous. I don't know why it hasn't gotten more popular than it is.
Yeah, there's not a single Pokemon in the entire Pokedex for all Pokemon that can resist both of its stabs, which is ridiculous. And when you have a Pokemon that's that fast and hits that hard, it's going to be really tough to take down and really tough to live hits from.
So there you go, guys. There's a little bit of free advice. If you get the opportunity to draft Mega Lopunny, you might want to. It works out really well. So that has been the Season 5 GBA Awards. If you guys agree or disagree with our choices, let us know in the comments down below. And let us know what you love most about Season 5 now that it has officially wrapped after what is, honestly, a really long interlude. But the good news is that Season 6 is a thing, and everybody's starting to work on it. So be sure to check back to the channel, keep an eye on it, actually, because there will be updates pretty soon with all sorts of information that you will want to know about what's going on with Season 6 of the GBA. Thank you for watching and or listening. As always, I am CantoCast Blue.
And I'm Baby Nick. As always, stay beautiful.